It all began as a quiet ripple, barely noticeable beneath the surface of everyday life at Daystar Television Network. A few concerned viewers whispered about an unsettling rumor: had someone close to Joni Lamb, the co-founder and president of the world's largest Christian television network, harmed her own granddaughter? At first, the rumble of gossip felt improbable. After all, Daystar was built on faith-filled messages of healing, hope, and restoration. But over time that ripple swelled into a wave of questions, accusations, and heartache that neither the network nor the Lamb family could ignore. Summer 2021 was supposed to be a time of rest and renewal. The network had rented a sprawling beachfront house in Miramar Beach, Florida, for its annual executive retreat. Jonathan and Susie Lamb, both longtime Daystar employees, looked forward to the warm Gulf breeze, afternoon fellowship by the pool, and some much-needed family time with their 5-year-old daughter. They packed sunscreen, swimsuits, and hopeful hearts, only to return holding a secret that would shadow their every moment from that point on. The memory of that day still haunts them. Walking the hallway to grab beach towels, they paused outside an open door and saw Pete, a relative they had known all their lives, alone with their daughter, who was, inexplicably, without her clothes. In Susie's mind, time froze. She recalls pressure building in her chest, a cold knot of dread forming as she debated her next move. Confront him? Scream for help? Run for Joni? Instead, she and Jonathan stepped inside and faced Pete with trembling voices. He offered a half-hearted excuse, something about not realizing the child would undress. His words sounded hollow even then. Back in the bright sunlight on the deck, Jonathan and Susie exchanged panicked looks. Their daughter darted around, laughing as if nothing unusual had happened, but they could feel a fracture opening beneath the surface of their family's faith-driven unity. They both agreed they needed to tell someone. They called Joni, expecting a fierce vow to protect their child. What they got instead was an uneasy suggestion to keep it private, to trust that their family would sort things out without involving law enforcement. Susie remembers feeling gutted. In their world, where prayer, fellowship, and the power of Christian community were held as the highest safeguards, why was she being urged to stay silent? Why did Joni ask to speak alone with her granddaughter, only to send her back into the room without explanation? From that moment, fear and confusion grew alongside grief. Their daughter stopped talking about what happened. The memory faded from her lips, while it seared itself into Jonathan and Susie's minds. For 2 years, they wrestled with how to proceed. They worried that speaking up could destroy reputations of their family, of the network, of their beloved grandparents in ministry. They feared a scandal would rock the very foundations of a ministry built on faith. And they feared they wouldn't be believed, that accusations against a respected family member would be dismissed as misunderstanding or malice. Yet the weight of silence became unbearable. Finally, in late 2023, with heavy hearts, they filed an official report with the Colleyville Police Department, naming only the preschool classmate their daughter had originally identified. Investigators opened a preliminary inquiry. Daystar issued a statement claiming the report was based on a misidentified suspect, that the preschool friend, not Pete, had been named in the original police report. But questions swirled in the small town outside Fort Worth. Why had the family been urged to change their account? Why had the granddaughter's voice seemed to vanish? Enter the Roy's Report, an independent journalism outlet focused on faith and church matters. In December 2024, veteran reporter Julie Roys published an in-depth interview with Jonathan and Susie. They described their confrontation with Pete, the hush-hush meeting with Joni, and the years of private agony that followed. They alleged Daystar's leadership pressured them to stick with the preschool narrative to protect the network's reputation. Suddenly, a story that had simmered quietly for 2 years exploded across social media and in living rooms of Daystar's global audience. The network's legal team sprang into action. Michael D. Anderson of Kelly Hart sent a sharply worded letter to the Roy's Report, demanding retractions or threatening litigation for tortious conduct. Daystar's official posts on social media stressed that they had always taken any hint of misconduct seriously, that they fully cooperated with law enforcement, and that investigators found no credible evidence to charge anyone. They even highlighted that Pete had volunteered for 2 independent life lie detector tests, and passed them both, they said, a badge of his innocence. For many viewers, the mention of polygraph tests felt decisive. Faithful supporters saw vindication for a beloved family member. But skeptics pointed out that polygraphs are far from infallible. In the world of criminal justice, no court admits polygraph results as proof. Stress, fear, and training can sway the results. Meanwhile, the granddaughter's silence loomed large. Had family pressure played a role? Had her words been coached into silence? All of this set the stage for the dramatic conclusion on May 14, 2025. The Colleyville police announced they were closing their investigation with no charges against Pete. Their statement cited insufficient evidence and noted that the victim has not made an outcry. They emphasized that under Texas law, there is no statute of limitations for child sexual assault, meaning if new evidence or testimony ever emerges, the case can be reopened. The news landed like a thunderclap. Relief surged through Daystar's faithful base. Finally, vindication. But it was mingled with a hollow ache. A legal closing isn't the same as an emotional or moral clearing. For many, no charges simply meant the stringent burden of proof hadn't been met, not necessarily that nothing happened. Susie took to social media immediately. She reminded everyone that police closures are often procedural, a pause until new evidence comes forward or the victim is ready to speak. Most children don't have the words until they grow up, she wrote. When our daughter is ready, the case will be wide open again. As that chapter seemed to draw to a close, another began to unfold. A new video surfaced on YouTube in June 2025, under the headline, "This Changes Everything." Lisa Weiss exposes Doug and Joni like never before. Lisa Weiss, the ex-wife of Joni's husband Doug Weiss, stepped into the spotlight with allegations that threatened to upend the narrative the network had tried so hard to control. Lisa and Doug had been married for more than 30 years before Marcus Lamb's death on November 30, 2021. 6 weeks later, on January 27, 2022, Lisa says Doug filed for divorce. 17 months after that, on June 30, 2023, Doug and Joni Lamb were married. The rapid turn of events raised eyebrows, and Lisa argues it shows there was an ongoing relationship well before Marcus's passing. In her video, Lisa shares private messages, text exchanges and emails, suggesting Joni reached out to Doug during his divorce proceedings. She interviews a mutual friend who claims to have seen Doug and Joni together socially in the spring of 2022, months before either divorce was final. She insists these glimpses behind the curtain expose more than just a hasty remarriage. They hint at secrecy, insider pressure, and decisions made in shadowed boardrooms. Lisa also challenges the God narrative that some in Daystar's leadership floated as justification for their union. She quotes prophecies and words from the Lord invoked by prominent ministry figures, dreams of divine destiny, to argue that spiritual language masked human choices. Were they following the heart of God, she asks viewers, or hiding behind prophecy to shield wrong behavior? Her allegations don't end with romance. She claims Daystar insiders quietly urged Doug to finalize his divorce quickly so he could assume a top leadership role. She says Joni personally encouraged him to sign the divorce papers, hinting at a pact, leave your old life behind, and step into a new one at the helm of a global television network. As Lisa's video gained traction, the tensions woven into the family saga began to knot tighter. Two of Daystar's gravest controversies, an alleged cover-up of child abuse and a lightning-fast remarriage, suddenly seemed part of the same tapestry of secrecy and spin. The network's reputation, already rattled by questions about its handling of allegations, now faced new scrutiny over decisions made in hallways far from the cameras. Daystar's supporters rallied, many dismissing Lisa's claims as bitter post-divorce grievances. They pointed back to the polygraph tests that cleared Pete and to the network's official statements of cooperation with law enforcement. They accused critics of conspiracy theories and of attacking a ministry they love. Critics, meanwhile, saw a pattern. When powerful religious organizations face internal trouble, standard procedures, board meetings, legal letters, private conversations, often obscure the truth. They urged for independent oversight and transparent inquiries, arguing that faith-based institutions need the same accountability measures as any other organization entrusted with the vulnerable. Legal experts weighed in, reminding everyone that no court verdict on polygraphs equates to innocence, and that families often face immense pressure to resolve allegations quietly. Child advocacy groups stressed the importance of creating safe spaces for children to speak, unhindered by fear of family fallout. Journalists noted the paradox, a ministry preaching transparency and grace applying a very different standard when scandal threatens its image. Through it all, the human cost remained front and center. Jonathan and Susie carry the weight of their daughter's silence. They fear for her well-being, whether or not the courts ever speak. Joni lives with the tension between her love for her family and her duty to protect her ministry's integrity. Doug navigates a new role under intense scrutiny, his every move watched for signs of favoritism or impropriety. And Pete, though cleared legally, endures a spotlight he never asked for, his life upended by suspicion and rumor. Meanwhile, viewers of Daystar, once comforted by morning worship services and inspiring testimonies, find themselves asking harder questions. How do we reconcile faith in God's goodness with the reality of human failure? How do we protect children without trampling on due process? And can a ministry that preaches healing truly heal its own wounds? As summer 2025 unfolds, new episodes in this saga are likely. Susie's reminder rings true: a police file closed is not a story's end. If the little girl finds her voice in years to come, the case can be opened again. No statute of limitations in Texas stands in the way. And if other insiders come forward, like Lisa Weiss, the network may face fresh reckonings. For now, the best any of us can do is stay alert, stay compassionate, and stay engaged. Subscribe to credible news channels, follow updates with a critical but fair eye, and remember that behind every scandal lies real people, children whose voices must be heard, families grappling with grief and guilt, and communities yearning for accountability and healing. In the end, the Daystar saga is a test of more than corporate governance or family loyalty. It challenges us to live the values we proclaim, to seek truth even when it hurts, to love mercy even when we are angry, and to walk humbly on a path whose twists and turns are charted by the messy realities of human hearts. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that genuine faith isn't the absence of questions, it's the courage to ask them, together.